Hello, welcome back to Life as Life with Lydia. In today's episode, I'll be sharing 6 points on what makes budgeting important, or we could say, why is budgeting important? Before I do that, I would like to define what budgeting is. And budgeting can simply be said to be balancing your expenses with your income. Or we could say it's creating a plan of how you're going to spend your money, and it can help you determine in advance whether you will have enough money to spend on what you want to spend money on. Now, that said, I'll go straight into sharing the first point, of which it helps you be set on the price. Set your eyes on the price. Now, in the definition, I was able to say that it helps us create this plan. Now, in this plan, it will help us also come up with our short-term and long-term goals. And these long-term and short-term goals, we'll be able to work towards them because we have a budget. And we'll be able to, have a plan to say, this is how I'll be able to reach my goal. And you know what? It helps you even when you have something that you're working towards, right? You will not aimlessly just do things, but you will be focused because you know exactly what you're working towards, and you will also be motivated. I think most of the times we struggle sticking to our budget because we don't have things that we're working towards. We don't have things that are making us be focused. So if maybe your long-term goal could be financial freedom and your short-term goals could be, how you get through month to month based on how much you get, the budget will help us work towards that, and it will also help us be focused. Our second point is that it helps us, not spend money that we do not have. Many are the times when we are like, I can afford that, I can afford that, I can afford that. But then when you actually start spending, you're like, oh, actually, I do not have enough money. Like I said in the definition, it helps us, balance our expenses and our income. They should be at the same level, One can't be higher than the other. Obviously, it would be nice if our income is higher than our expenses. That would be great. But sometimes you find that our expenses are higher than our income, and then that brings about a problem, and that means you are spending money that you do not have. But when you have a budget, it keeps you in check. Like I've already said, it keeps you focused. So you'll be able to know what amount of money you have and for what. All right. And that takes us into the third point. It can help us have a happier, retirement, or lead to a happier retirement. What do I mean? So let's say, if you're getting loans or, getting things on credit, no one wants to be retiring with credit now. Who wants to be retiring while they have money, money that they owe people, or you have too many things lagging behind. If you have retired, you want to be happy, and probably when you are retired or when you retire, you want some form of financial freedom. I know there are people who are even looking into retiring early, probably at 40 or 50. Now, how do you work towards that? So when you have a budget, you'll be able to say, all right, I can be able to save this amount of money for the future, and this is how I would like to spend it. The fourth point is that it helps prepare for emergencies. Obviously, talking about emergencies, that's a whole topic on its own, and I hope to talk about emergencies in the coming videos. In a budget, we'll be able to know how much we can allocate for our emergencies, and then what sort of emergencies, because some things you will realize that when you begin to budget, the things are not even emergencies as we call them, things like school fees, rent. It's not an emergency. Those are things that can be planned for, because there are times people will come up with like, oh, I have school fees to pay, but school fees are not really an emergency if you look at it. So it keeps us in check, all right, and it also keeps us in a place where we do not struggle, because when you have an emergency fund somewhere kept waiting for you, you will not struggle. You will not be thinking, oh, what of this, why didn't I do that? Taking us to our fifth point is that it helps shed light on bad spending habits. So when you begin to track how much money you're spending and on what you are spending money on, you'll be able to see, probably that amount of money I'm spending on that is not worth it, or probably that money I can, save it. Even, tracking like how much money you're spending on, foods that you're buying at work. Sometimes you'll be thinking, oh, it's just 5 kwacha, or it's just £1, £1.50. But then when you calculate that, spending it on a daily basis, you find that that's money that you can save if you are able to carry a packed lunch. Now, the last point, but really not the least, budgeting is definitely better than counting sheep. All right, what do I mean? There are times when we stress. You're failing to sleep at night because you're thinking, how am I going to fund that? How am I going to do that? Where is the money for this going to come? It helps you have, be peaceful, be happy and content, because you know where exactly the money is coming from and where it's being spent, because you're not stressing about, okay, how am I going to afford that? It's already budgeted for. So I know this is like a compressed video. I've talked about big points in a short space of time. I'll be able to do, a more detailed video where I also get to share on how I go about my budgeting and what sort of tool I use to budget. And also I'll be able to do a separate video, like I have said, on emergencies, how to come up with an emergency fund, and also, setting these short-term and long-term goals. When we say short-term, what do we mean? When we say long-term goals, what do we mean? And how do we work towards our short-term and our long-term goals? I hope that was useful, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks, and bye-bye.